What do you mean by when you say that you should practice detachment and discrimination?
Okay.
What does it mean?
Okay. So you're driving a car, you're attached to it or detached from it?
You're attached, yeah.
You're attached to it?
Yeah.
How is it that you're sitting here?
Oh, yeah, because you have a car. Oh, yeah.
So I have a car means there's a duality expressed. There's a car and yourself, subject and object is there, possessor of the car and the car itself.
Yes.
Supposing we don't possess anything here, supposing this phrase that when you say I and you think of a physical I, supposing it's all your illusion. Supposing we are genetically programmed to assume this so that we can enact the biological drama that we call life. If that's the case, then that is in concordance with the Upanishads, because they don't think in any way that you are connected other than from a utilitarian point of view. So it's just like, is the light bulb attached to the electrical current? Yes, it is. Can it be detached? Yes, it can. We just switch it off. We break the connection. So we can choose to break the connection or engage in the projection, connection, but we have to understand where things lie. So our big mistake, our great illusion, is that we are the object that is clearly an object linguistically expressed. We say my car, we don't say me. And we say my body. We don't say me.
As in the psychophysical, is it?
Yes, so you're talking of your body, your leg, your arm, your hand, your nose, all of that, see? Something belonging to you. And the question is, what is this you? So this is the eternal question that is asked. What am I? So as I say many times before, we don't start off, I'm here, look around, where is God? No, I am here, I exist. What is that? Then section by section, according to and against certain criteria, we make an introspective analysis. So what is the criteria? That something must not change. If it changes, then it's subject to time and space and so on, but more than that, it's noticed by some entity that doesn't change, or at least doesn't change in relation to it. So some observing entity is there amidst the changes that gets mixed up. So although the language distinguishes it properly as subject-object, my body, when you say, who are you? I am the body. See? Then supposing your analysis says, to be the body is not possible, because I can observe all these different parts, and anything that's coordinated together can dissemble. We know that, we call this death. But we detach from this body anyway, psychologically and emotionally, in every other way we detach from it. You did it last night, wasn't it?
Sleep.
Hopefully. Yeah. When you went into a dream, you could dream, and the analogy is, you could dream that you're a king with a queen in a palace and live for 1,000 years. Is it true? What's your criteria to say it's not true?
It's a dream.
Yeah, but that's not an answer, it's a dream. So why is it untrue? Why is that state of understanding not true?
It doesn't exist.
Why did you say that? Somebody's attacking you in a dream. Let's say it's not a somebody, a something. A tiger is coming and attacking you. Are you sweating? Are you panicking? What are you feeling in the dream? If it's not real, why are you feeling all these things? So this idea that it's true or real or unreal is evaluated from our waking state. But the dream, for the dream state, this waking state went. Supposing I broke my leg in the waking state, then when I enter into the dream, somehow this leg gets a transfer. It didn't apply for a visa, but suddenly it's there in a full state, not broken. And there I am playing football. How is it possible? Who gave the visa? I never gave an application for it. So fully playing football in the dream, yet broken in the waking state. One more state is there, and that is when there's no dream, there's no time, no space, no causal relationships, no events, nothing moving, no subject, no object, nothing to distinguish anything other than a sense of peace. Even these things vanish. Even the football player vanishes. All legs vanish. All arms vanish. All joy vanishes. All sorrow vanishes. Everything vanishes because this subject-object vanishes. Space and time vanishes. Supposing even in this waking state we are able to show that space and time can vanish. Space and time is a geometric dimensional thing. And previously space had 3 dimensions, but we don't see it in 3 dimensions. When you look at a television screen or a movie, you're seeing it in 2 dimensions that suggests 3 dimensions. There's a flat screen. So is there maybe something in this world like that, where we see this 3-dimensional universe, or we see something that is not actually there, and we see it in a dimensional way that hooks us into an understanding. I am this and this is that, and we don't care what happens in the dream, and we don't care what happens in the dreamless sleep state. It just comes and goes, because all our reality we put into one basket called waking state. But the criteria that we have for the unreality of a dream, we also should apply to the waking state. It vanishes. There's no permanence in it. It disappears completely. It disappears under anesthesia. It disappears when we fall asleep and go to a dream. And even dream and waking disappear when we have a dreamless sleep. So the criteria is for something, when we say the real, the criteria should be, well, this is something that doesn't change. That means it has no time in it. It's not something that has parts. That means the space, anything that evolves in space that has any parts, first of all, is not for its own sake, but secondly, the whole thing is not is a sum of the parts. So what is that whole thing? What is the entity that observes the changes going on and the different formations that go on in the spatial area that we relate to? Now supposing we determine and become convinced, or even just in principle, and then become convinced that this world that we see of sight and touch and taste and sound does not meet our criteria for something that is real, means something that is permanent, then there's no reason to attach ourselves to it, because attachment to it will be false. And actually we know that attachment to it will create sorrow for us. If we are attached to this body, and this body is about to die, its time finished, then we become very sorrowful. And if we are attached to another person, that means another body, mind, complex, with a personality and so on and so forth, and we deem that also to be a reality, then that creates sorrow for us as well. So wherever there's a demise of something that we cherish and are attached to, we become very sorrowful. And we become attached to cars. We call them by different names, normally female for some reason, other feminine names. Anyhow, they carry us nightly and don't complain. But you see, when the car gets stolen, as has happened, what do we feel? We feel happy about it. See, like my right arm went. Why? Oh, but it was so nice to drive and this and that, the other. I see. Can you not get another one? I can, but it's inconvenient and so on. It's all right, legitimate complaint. but it's like you yourself went, you see, it's like a personal affront to you. So we get attached to these things, obviously, and there's no criticism per se about attachment, only to say factually it will create sorrow for you. And I don't think anybody courts sorrow. So anything that is delusional, see, the famous neo-atheist Richard Dawkins talks about the God delusion, writes a book like that, the God delusion. But somebody should write a reply book, maybe me, maybe somebody else, called the world delusion. Because we are genetically driven to be deluded by this world and see it as it is not. Now science acknowledges this. So there's a great scientist called Leonard Susskind, Leonard Susskind, I think it is, anyway. And he makes a statement like this, and I can't remember the exact, so I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but he says, this world of general relativity is but a, what's the word he uses now? It's but a shadows. I'm using my own words here. It's like, the meaning is like this, that it's like a shadow of what is really there. It's an imitation of what is really there, or it's a reflection of what is there, or he uses a different term that I can't recall at this point. So what he's saying is things are not what we see. And why is that? It's because we are dimensionally restricted to 5 interpretations of the world around us. All the senses, 5 senses are there. We don't see anything beyond that range. We don't see infrared, we don't see ultraviolet, we don't hear supersonic, we don't hear subsonic. All of these are beyond our range. We can't see with our physical eyes the end of the solar system. You know, there was the Voyager went to the very edge of the solar system, got caught up in disturbance at the very edge. But around Pluto, you look back, there's no Earth there, it's gone, see? So anybody, supposing somebody is born there on Pluto, or maybe Pluto's not big enough, but any suspected planet that might be there, they suspect there's a planet around there, a 9th planet. But beyond our range of perception, only seen by its effects, or inferred by its effects, then you wouldn't suspect at all that there was something on the other side of it called the Earth. And that if you see a strange object or Voyager, you wouldn't suspect where does it come from. It could come from anywhere, because you have no visibility about where it came from. So there are things that are beyond the range of our senses. And so we operate within the interpretation of what we have. But one sure principle, anything that is limited will suggest to us something that is beyond. That's a sound principle. If you say you know X, Y, and Z, then be sure that this limited knowledge that you have is surrounded, as it were, by further knowledge in the future. That's why in Patanjali Yoga Sutras we find the yogic interpretation of God, that ancient one, you see, who is a teacher. That means who knows. Because whatever knowledge we have infers a knower beyond it, and a knowledge beyond it. So there's a value in limitation, as long as we accept that it's not the norm. It's just our small bubble. And what's outside that bubble still has to be explored. And Vedanta says we can explore it, not by looking outward, but by looking inward. And the more subtle area than the physical body that we attach ourselves to is the psychological body, the emotional body, the mind. But we find that that also has sections, departments, parts, and no stability for it. We can see activity coming and going in it. So what is that entity we have to next ask that notices all of that, that acts as a witness for it? And so by exploring deeper and deeper, we catch it. And then ultimately, we come to a point where we have to say, like a spider weaving a web from itself. because we have come across now something that is more apparitional causation we come across. But the original question is, what is detachment? Detachment is as a result of a realization through what's called discernment. Discernment leads to detachment. That finds out what is real, what is unreal, what is permanent, what is impermanent, what will create sorrow, and the somehow slavery that we have by attaching ourselves to it. Supposing I have a pet dog and I'm supremely attached to it. See, it's my whole world. When I'm here, I worry, oh, I hope it's not, bored or tearing the place apart. I hope it's not pining too much for me. Why? Because the dog is attached to you and you're attached to the dog. A mutual attachment being there and each one being slave to the other. And so the process of discernment has to be there, whereby we see things in a new way, we revalue things according to the proper order and function and the proper aspect of them that puts them in the category of object that can be dealt with, that we know, and we know their characteristics. So if you say, well, what is the human body? Then the human body can be said to be made from various chemicals. And these chemicals take the shape of molecules. And these molecules basically are made up of atomic structures. And these atoms are the same atoms as we find everywhere. And therefore, for that reason, why are we attached to it? There's no reason to be attached to it. And a beautiful book and a series of lectures, Erwin Schrödinger asked this question, what is life? So what brings all these chemicals together and makes them act as if they are sentient and real, and not, in the language of Richard Dawkins, mere lumbering robots? So he puts an answer there, finds that we are all slaves and subjects. To what? We are subject to our genetics. That's what he's saying. Of course we know that's not true today. But anyway, that's a different thing. So that's what's meant by detachment. So not to be misunderstood that we should remove ourselves away from a situation because somebody said it somewhere and we misunderstood it, and then sit in a cave which is much colder than this room here, and then after 20 years, what did you do? I sat in the cold, and what did you find out? Nothing. I just found out how cold it was. But somebody said I should detach myself. And what happened? I nearly died. Of what? Of sheer boredom. See, because somebody said detach. So we shouldn't make the mistake and misunderstand what we mean. Detachment does not mean being unconcerned. It does not mean standing aloof from the world and not engaging in it. It does not mean being unconcerned when we see difficulties around us. This is not detachment. Detachment is the effect of us discriminating correctly. Correct discernment. All right. Anything else? So we can pick this up. We studied the Mundaka Upanishad here, and we left off on a stanza. So it's worth studying. So what is the translation of this stanza, which ends Yata Sitaha Purushat Keshalamani Tata Kshalat Sambhavatiha Vishwam. That is, So as a spider creates and absorbs or brings back, so projects and withdraws the threads from itself, back into itself. That's one example. As plants grow on the earth, or grass grows on the earth, and also as hair grows on the body, these are analogies. So the universe originates from one thing that is imperishable. If it was perishable, we couldn't find it as an origin. We'd have to look for a different origin. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so you read out the translation also.
So as a spider spreads and withdraws its thread, as on the earth grows the herbs and trees, and as from the living man issues out hair on the head and body, so out of the immutable does the universe emerge here in this phenomenal creation. Yatha, as it is a familiar fact in the world that the Urnanabhi spider, by itself and independent of any other auxiliary,
when you shake a stick at a spider and poke it, it runs away. It's clearly sentient. When you do it to a web, it doesn't do anything. So it's possible that all the debris from the food that we eat comes out as nails and hair, and they're inert on the body. But the skin is sensitive. So just as hair, nails also just grow from the human body, in the same way you divide something into something that is consciously sentient and something that is insentient and something that is consciously sentient.
Srajate, spreads out the thread that are non-different from its own body. Cha, and again, grahante, should rather be grahanti, withdraws those very threads, makes them one with itself. Cha, and yatha, as prithvim, on the earth grow, aushadaya, the herbs, that is to say plants ranging from corn to trees, as they grow inseparably from the earth, and yatha, as Sataha Purusha, from the existing living man, Sambhavanti, grow, Keshalomani, hair on the head and other parts of the body that is dissimilar to the body in nature.
Yeah, because you can cut it off. You can get a haircut, isn't it? You don't say, most of my DNA went, so I won't get a haircut again. Or my DNA in the hair. You ask me, why do I grow a beard? Well, why should I give others the DNA, you see, put it on the floor. All right.
Just as it is in these cases, so Aksharata, from the immutable of the foregoing characteristics that does not depend on any other auxiliary, Sambhavati originates, Iha, here in this phenomenal creation, Vishwam, the entire universe, both similar and dissimilar. As for the citing of many illustrations, it is meant for easy comprehension. The next verse is begun in order to show a fixed order of creation, viz., that the universe, while emerging out of Brahman, does so in this order of succession, and not simultaneously like a handful of jujubes thrown down. Tapasa chiyate brahma tato annam bijayate annat prano manah satyam. Through knowledge, Brahman increases in size. From that is born the unmanifested food. From food evolves prana, Hiranyagarbha, thence the cosmic mind, thence the five elements, thence the worlds, thence the immortality that is in karmas.
So we have to acknowledge the awkwardness of language and say, you see, that this Brahman, this Absolute, does not actually expand or increase. Although the root suggests Brah, something that expands, in reality, if it's an Absolute, you can't do that. There's nothing to expand into, it's complete and full. We can only expand by increasing our food. Then the body expands nicely, but there's no such thing, you see. So we're using awkward language just out of convenience. All right, you read on, read the commentary.
Tapasa, through knowledge, by virtue of possessing the knowledge of the process of
Yes,
creation.
through knowledge, but the pasa is actually austerities. So the two are linked together. When we practice these systematic practices, then knowledge comes to us. Okay.
Brahma, Brahman, the immutable, the source of creation, when desirous of creating this world, like a seed sending out its sprout. Chiyate, increases in size, as a father procreating a son does out of elation. From that Brahman thus become inflated because of its possession, through its omniscience, of the power and knowledge of creation, preservation and dissolution. Abhijayate, originates, grows. Annam, food, the word being derived from the root ad in the sense of that which is eaten, that is, enjoyed.
So the whole of matter is described as food in many places. Why should we describe matter as food? Because it's consumed by something, and matter is shaky. Energy is the only thing that doesn't get easily shaken. Energy is not created nor destroyed, but energy does change. It has a capacity to transform itself into other things. But energy itself, so the law of thermodynamics says, is constant. It doesn't, you can't add to it, you can't take away from it. Whatever transformation it makes, the mass balance will be the same. Energy is the only thing that makes things heavy. Nothing else makes it heavy. Energy, what you put in, has to balance. So you wind a clock up, like that, and you leave another clock is unwound, you put energy into it, it's heavier than the unwound clock. And if you dissolve that wound cloth into acid, it'll be warmer than one that is not. You can't put energy in and expect it not to go, not to have an effect anyway. It has to balance. So energy makes things heavy. All right.
That is, enjoyed means the unmanifested, that is common to all creatures. That food originates or gets evolved into the state of imminent manifestation. There is a footnote here. The beginningless Maya is the unmanifested food. The Upanishad speaks of its origin in the sense of its becoming ready for evolution. Otherwise, Maya has no beginning.
Maya has no beginning because a trick has no beginning. It's just a trick. The magician pulls a rabbit out of a hat and you say, where's the origin of this illusion? Or you find big illusionists will take cameras and so on and so forth to an airfield. And there the big jumbo jet stands on the runway, and then they put a screen or something, and then they remove the screen and jet is gone. And you can look all throughout the whole field, nothing is there. In reality, what's happened is there are panels waiting at the side that are brought in, and behind the panels the jumbo jet is there. But from the observer's point of view, oh, it's a mysterious thing, head-scratching moment. But where's the beginning of that? You can't use that line of questioning in terms of illusion. Something that seems to be real, but it's not there. Okay.
From that unmanifested, that is, from that food in a state of imminent manifestation, was born Prana, Hiranyagarbha, who is common to all the beings in the universe that are eluded with a part of his power of knowledge and action, who sprouts from that seed of all beings constituted by ignorance, desire, and action, and who identifies himself with the universe. So, second footnote here. He is the sum total of all the individuals, being common to all. He is called Sutra, the thread running through all. Was born. This is to be supplied. From that Hiranyagarbha evolved Manaha, that which is called the cosmic mind, comprising volition, deliberation, doubt, determination, etc. From that mind again, as characterized by volition, etc., evolved Satyam, the five elements such as space, etc., which are called Satya, that is the gross Sat, and the subtle Tyat. From those five elements called Satya evolved the Lokaha, the seven worlds, such as the earth, etc., in succession after the creation of the cosmic egg. Following the order of the evolution of creatures, beginning with man, there evolved on these worlds karmas, castes, and stages of life. The footnote here is rituals, etc. And karmasu, in the karmas that acted as the cause, there evolved amrityam, immortality, the fruit of the karmas. It is called immortality since it is not destroyed as long as karma is not eliminated in billions of kalpas, cycles. With a view to concluding the subject matter dealt with above, the verse states as follows. Yas sarvagya sarva vidyasya jnanamayam tapah tasmad et brahma nama rupa matram cha jayate iti Mundaka Upanishad pratham Mundaka prathama khanda. From him who is omniscient, from him who is omniscient in general and all-knowing in detail, and whose austerity is constituted by knowledge, evolved this derivative Brahman, name, color, and food. Yeah, he, the one.
It's that entity that is evolving, taking on the media of time, space and time, seems to be changing, but it's not changing because we already heard it's immutable, it doesn't change. Because it doesn't change, it's also imperishable. So it's not evolving, but it seems to be evolving. So that makes it the material and efficient cause for everything. It becomes these colors and so on. Now the interesting thing is, how does it become that? How does being take on becoming is a wonderful, what they call ontological question. Alright, go on.
Yeah, he, the one called the immutable, and answering to the foregoing definition, that is, Sarvajanaha, a knower of all things in general. Sarvagya, a knower of all things in general, and Sarvavit, a knower of all things in detail. Yasya, whose, the tapaha, austerity, is jnanamayam, made up of knowledge, consists in omniscience and not in effort. Tasmat, from that omniscient entity, as aforesaid, jayate, is born, etad Brahma, this the derivative Brahman, as said before, who is called Hiranyagarbha. Besides, from it evolve Nama, name, such as that one is Devadat or Yagyadat, etc. Rupam, color, such as this is white or blue, etc. Cha annam, and food, such as paddy, barley, etc. They evolve in the order shown in the preceding verse, and hence it is to be understood that there is no contradiction.
So we can see there's the order, generally following what everybody follows, that Brahman is there, and through some kind of mechanism, it self-projects. What does it project first? It projects a potentiality, and then from there is projected a cosmic mind called Hiranyagarbha, and from there colors and forms and shapes and everything else comes about. So that's a common understanding of how things have progressed, and then withdrawal will be in the reverse order, and what we ourselves do in life, we're doing in that same process. So we acknowledge there's an evolution for us, but that entity that is driving it, that is evolving itself, is not a mysterious natural selection that remains unexplained, but that entity that arrives at its destination and is the destination is also involved in the process. So this is what Swami Vivekananda describes as evolution and involution in his Jnana Yoga lectures. It's difficult to grasp these things, you see, because our gut goes against it. This is real. When I bang my head, it's real. When somebody insults me, it seems to be real. But all these things pass. The bruise on my leg from knocking it will go. And the bruise to my ego will also go. All of this will come and go. But who notices it? Who is astute enough to inquire, what is that witness of all of this? And where does it come from? And find out where is it an origin. So there's a school of thought that says, we don't require any God, we don't believe in extra cosmic God, we believe nature, pantheism. So nature itself is sufficient. If we add a personality to that, then we have to add cruelty and punishment and, disaster for the world, because we're assuming that being is responsible for it all. We're bypassing a causal law, which is also part of nature. So then that solves the creation problem, but not the origin problem. Oh, sorry, the other way around. It solves the origin problem, but not the creation problem. But we have to find out both. How does it originate? Where does it suddenly come into existence? And if you say it was always there, then the next thing is, well, where are all the components created from? How do they just arrive and play their part and disappear? So both these questions have to be answered. In cosmology, these two competing models were there. The Big Bang model was there and the steady state model was there. Steady state model has survived as a quasi-steady state. But the Big Bang there is limping along, proposing that everything in the universe goes back to a tiny dot. And all the time and space and energy and matter all came from there, and we have no idea what it was. And there's no before, because time itself isn't there. And then we have to find some explanation, how does it explode in such a way that we find the evenness that we see. So we have to put in an inflationary model and so on and so forth. So that has two problems. It has an origin problem and it has a creation problem. Where does all the matter come from? But steady state only has one problem. It says we don't have to have an origin. It's always there. And then we have a problem, where is the matter created from? Where is it coming from? And where is it going back to as well? So in the same way, we have to make an inquiry. And it so happens that the origin and the creation is the same entity. We don't have to look for any separate thing. And when we find out how does this work, how does this arrive, then we resort to our own experience and say, how does a dream arrive also? How does a dream arrive and depart? And the events within a dream, how does it arrive, how does it depart? Don't ask why it's there, but how does it arrive? And then how does a waking state arrive, where you have to label yourself for passport purposes? And in a dream you don't have to label yourself with passport. There's no visa required. Things just happen. And don't happen necessarily in the logical order that you would analyze them to be in or should be in from a waking point of view. The whole thing goes completely in a dreamless sleep, in a fundamental sleep which has great potentiality. If we can tap into that potentiality, then it must be the most creative area we can ever think of. So this is what meditation does. It taps into this creative area, and then we can create a world of our own that we don't have to necessarily complain about. All right, good.